Okay, so tell me, what would you do yourself, if anything, in this kind of situation? I was watching, when I was younger, I never really liked to watch TV. And just wasn't a thing for me. It wasn't that I disliked it, just wasn't a thing for me. And I'm talking decades. I'm 61, and recently I started saying, yeah, in 2020, I think is when it really started, a little bit before then. And gradually since then, I started watching old shows, different, I would call them apps or hubs. One of them calls them hubs or whatever. Uh, like well, I won't mention the names of them, but I'm watching some of these old shows and newer ones, whatever tickles my fancy at the time. And I'm watching Designing Women now, reruns, of course. And there was a theme on one of them I thought was going to be the theme that I had seen, not on that show, but other shows before, over the years. I did see some TV in all those years, but, it wasn't a thing for me, really. And the theme, we've probably all seen it at least once somewhere. It's about when somebody, they're going through a rough patch, somebody whether it's family, friends, whomever, and you loan them some money, or maybe you even give them some money to help them buy, help them through the rough patch. People do. Some loan, some, just give it to them. And then the next thing, like on some show, you'd see the next thing is that person who's buying expensive stuff with it, not what it was intended for, like groceries. Or they would buy groceries with it, but expensive stuff. Not, somebody who's needs to be frugal at this time, and they're being frugal. I mean, I've always been a frugal shopper. I don't need to be anymore, and I haven't for I don't know how long. But I did have to when I was younger. I got married when I met and married Adam when I was 18, and we had it rough at first. I'm not going to say at first, for quite a while. Until we finally made it, we had to do that whole thing of working both hard and smart to get out of that. And luckily, we had the ability. People say you got to pull yourself up from your bootstraps. Well, not everybody can afford boots. Sometimes they can't even afford the straps. So we shouldn't be so judgmental. And anyway, that's my view. But anyway. So I had to be frugal. It just became a way of life for me. And recently we've been saying, we don't really have to be this frugal. We need to, start buying a little more expensive food, because as we age, they're putting on strict diets and all this stuff. He's older than I, and I'm 61. So we need to accommodate ourselves with that. And, because quite often the cheap stuff isn't necessarily the good stuff, good for you stuff. That's what my experience in life, and that's quite often, actually. But anyway. Okay, so, anyway, back to this about, you give somebody some money or whatever, help them out a little bit, and in whatever way. And they're buying this expensive stuff, and you're like, whoa. That is the theme of some shows. But it's also a theme, when I first started on YouTube on my original channel, it was August was 10 years. And it was much more community-based back then. And a lot of people knew one another. And the only thing I knew before then was that YouTube was for songs and how-to videos. That's all I knew. And then I started seeing, I was looking up, of course, that show, I had seen that show, Extreme Couponing, and I was looking up that or something, and it was there, but I saw, it eventually led me to see that people were doing Dollar Tree videos. I said, hey, I can do that, And that's how I started. And so it was frugal shopping was basically the theme of that channel. And as I went on, I started seeing things like, as it turned out, they had a name for them, e-beggars. I'd never heard of e-beggars before. They beg online, And I saw some, and like one of them, she used her mother or her grandmother to say that, she's poor. I mean, she's not poor, but she's sickly and she lives with her and she needs some money to pay for it. And instead, people would donate. And she went, and it was something along that line. And she went and spent it on stuff for herself. And then I saw several of them, and people pointed out. It was more community. People would point that out. Say, look, hey, this is not right. There were scammers, e-beggars, stuff like that. Not everybody who would do it. You could tell some people they really did need the help. And people helped them. Okay, you never know what's going to happen in your life, trust me. And you don't have total control over what does. A lot of people want to say, oh, you have total control. No, you don't. No, you don't. And I never could believe that some people were going around saying you have total control. Since when? But anyway, when we would, see that, I really wasn't much into saying anything about things like that. But I would do my own videos like this. Okay, I've never been one to point to the finger to the person, that's doing it. It's too much like gossip and, I don't do that. That's just not my style. There's a difference between malicious gossip and just keeping up with people, what's going on with people, that but if it has to be something mean, I don't, something this bad, I don't do that. Unless it's to help somebody. Okay, there's so many, depends on. But just malicious gossip, no. I think that's petty, and it's abusive. Okay, call it what it is, abusive. Yeah. Anyway, so I would see them, and I'd make my own videos about e-beggars. It was like once a year, 10 years. I'd make a video on it. And so when I was watching that show, The Designing Women, and I thought that was going to be the theme, but it didn't turn out to be the theme. It did make me think of that. And then there was something else, that came up, watching some videos. And every blue moon, I'll watch what other people buy groceries, I'm not real into that anymore. It's like every blue moon. And, I might know the person, they start talking about their groceries. It was a thing for me back then, because that's all I knew that it was at that time, was people showing their groceries and their Dollar Tree hauls and stuff like that. And, or the grocery haul. I did that for a while too. And, so, recently I just watched one, recently, and then another today. And I'm thinking, they're asking people for money. Well, they're not asking people for the money, but people are donating. And, but they're buying stuff that's not cheap. Okay, like I said, and that means, to me, I am being judgmental. At the same time, you got to go, you can make your own that. You don't need to buy something that's $10 that you can make for $1. And it's not that complicated to make it. Like macaroni and cheese. I'm about to make some macaroni and cheese. Let's see. The macaroni, I think, it's not macaroni. It's, I don't even know what it's called, but it's like angel hair, but they're in little twirls. And I make it with that. And there was a little bit of Velveeta. Velveeta is the only thing to me that melts right for this kind of thing. And, and little milk, little butter, and, whatever little bits of meat I have left over, put it in there. Great. That's probably more expensive than, a few, but I don't make much of it. So, And the pasta, like I said, it's like 50 cents. So, it's not real expensive. But somebody else might go out and buy a, one that's filled with sodium. Velveeta has a lot of sodium, but just filled with stuff that's, like 10, 15 bucks for one person. Yeah. Okay, but mine, they buy it for one person, one meal, maybe stretch it to two people. Mine, it's pretty cheap, really. It goes 3 meals. Okay, one person, at least 3 meals. And I need to calculate that up one day and see how much would that cost. Probably, let me think real fast. $2, $3. Well, let's just say 7. How about 7? It's not much milk. It's not much butter. It's not even a cup of milk. And then the butter just a little bit. And that's pretty cheap for 3 meals. But to buy, say, $15 for one thing, for one person, maybe 2, 1 meal. You see what I'm saying. And I did not know that there could be anything that expensive for mac and cheese. You buy a box of mac and cheese and add some milk, and I think milk and butter. I don't like those boxes of macaroni and cheese. They're always too dry for me. Even adding some, because what I make, by the way, is soup. Yeah, it's a soup. So, and it is delicious. So, I'm not telling anybody to cook it. Everybody has their own things, like especially with salt or carbohydrates and this and that, what they can and cannot eat. So I'm not telling anybody what to cook. But anyway, just that would be an example. Something that you can make, like beans and rice. Me, I'm not, that's too much carbs. And I don't put add any sodium. Okay, I don't add any salt. Not much. I've never really been one to cook with salt. Seriously. Just plain salt, no. And anyway, in this age, they don't want me to eat much salt anyway. And anyway. But, I like I said, I was enough time in my life more than once when it was rough. Not having enough food. One time the world was spinning around me. Adam was in California, I think. And I was by myself, and I wasn't asking, him to help me or anything. We were still married, but I wasn't telling him how bad I was off. And, didn't have enough money or something. Who knows what was wrong with me? Why would do that? But I was eating, like, so little, and much of it was beans and rice. And I just went through a funk or something, Well, he and I were actually separated. Yeah, that's what it was. We were separated. I mean, as in, we were going to get divorced. And I just wasn't asking him. He came and he came and visited me. And he was like, what in the crap? Bought me a whole bunch of groceries and said, don't ever do that, And ask for help, that kind of thing. So I'm not one to ask for help, you see. He was, legally my husband. So, and that was stupid of me. But, yeah, to eat like that is really rough. Just beans and rice. And I would back then I could get a 99-cent Whopper. And I would spend 99 cents to get a Whopper every once in a while. It was not healthy at all. It was pretty bad. And anyway, so I'm not telling somebody, I'm not telling him anything. I don't tell people stuff like that, what they should do and not do. Unless they're going to do themselves harm, and I know them, hey, watch it, be careful. Let me tell you a little cautionary tale here. And you take it from that what you need. But overall, no. So I'm not saying that they should, be real frugal, but you would think they would think that. That they're asking in some ways, telling, oh, somebody sent me this money, making it on the video, so that prompts other people to do the same. I mean, some people legitimately going through hard times. Okay, period. But some aren't. And then if you are going through hard times, are we wrong or right to be judgmental and say, you could go a more frugal way that would stretch those dollars. You'll stretch that help, because the people who are watching are going to think the same way. Well, wait a minute. You're going to pay that much for that? When you could do this? And, in some ways we're all judgmental. Because we live in a world where a lot of people are e-beggars and scammers and, whatever. We have to be judgmental to protect ourselves. You see? There's a difference in the way we're judgmental. Is it to protect ourselves? To protect others? Some more gullible people who might fall for some kind of scam or something? Or is it we're just judgmental? I know people who are just judgmental, so they can go around spreading malicious gossip. You see what I'm saying? Well, but what about you? What do you think? How do you see it? Leave me a comment. Oops, I cut that off a little early. But yeah, leave me a comment if you feel comfortable to do so on how you see it. Are you always one that says, I'm not giving to them? I don't give to people online, by the way. I have sent, at first, when it was so much more of a community and people would send one another gifts through the mail and, do stuff like that. Yeah, I've done that. But as far as donating money to somebody, I don't do it. I just don't. That can be a bad habit starting. And plus you could hit an extra zero or two. But that's my view on it, And I don't have any of those things myself, for people to send money. I don't even show anybody my email address, nothing like that. Now, no longer. I used to have my post office box, and somebody send me something, I send something back to them, like I said. But I don't, that stopped after that. It stopped being the community kind of thing. But anyway, just leave a comment if you feel comfortable. Okay? I'll talk to you on another video. Bye.